All right, let's talk about the St. Marion Nomads. We're going to dig into their absolutely wild first season in the Big Ten and what their trial by fire tells us about the sheer chaos of modern college football. Seriously, it was a ride. Let's get into it. You know, this quote from the season recap really just says it all, doesn't it? Last season wasn't about grinding out wins or controlling the clock. Nope, it was a straight-up arms race. And nowhere was that more true than in the Big Ten. Teams weren't just playing football. They were trying to survive an absolute offensive onslaught every single Saturday. So, to really get what St. Marion walked into, you gotta understand the landscape. This wasn't just some tough conference. It was a weekly gauntlet, a meat grinder of high-powered, pass-happy offenses. So what made the Big Ten so brutal? I mean, just look at this. You had quarterbacks just casually throwing for 4,000 yards. Every contender had a receiver room that was just loaded with guys who could take over a game at any moment. The play calling, forget conservative. It was aggressive. It was relentless. There were no weeks off, no easy games. Every Saturday was basically a potential shootout against another ranked team. And here's the bottom line. If you didn't have an elite quarterback and at least one receiver who absolutely demanded a double team, you just couldn't compete. It was that simple. You were bringing a knife to a gunfight. The whole league, top to bottom, revolved around pure offensive star power. Now, this is where it gets really interesting, because this slide shows you the whole story in one picture. Look at the top guys here: Mendoza, Morton, Stockton. Their touchdown to interception ratios are just insane. We're talking pure surgical efficiency. And then you see St. Marion's freshman QB, Devin Campbell. Those 27 touchdowns, that tells you the talent is absolutely there. But those 22 interceptions, oof. That's the story of a young, talented kid trying to survive in the deep end. So let's look at how this all played out for them, because St. Marion's welcome to the Big Ten was about as brutal as you can imagine. They were the new kids on the block, and believe me, the league treated them like it. I mean, this timeline says everything you need to know, right? An 0-4 start. And they weren't just losing, they were getting exposed. It looked for all the world like they were in way over their heads, facing a level of talent they just weren't ready for. This quote from a mid-season report just captures the whole vibe perfectly. Overwhelmed might be an understatement. The team was just drowning in turnovers and constant defensive breakdowns. They were playing this frantic, messy brand of football, and the rest of the conference was making them pay for every single mistake. And this number was the anchor dragging them to the bottom. 22. That's how many interceptions Devin Campbell threw. You just can't win football games, especially not in a conference this good, when you're giving the other team the ball that often. It was the single biggest problem holding them back. But, and this is a big but, the story doesn't end there, because right in the middle of all the losses and the turnovers, something started to click. St. Marion stopped just trying to survive and actually started to build an identity. And right when it felt like this season was a total wash, that everyone had written them off, there was a turn. It wasn't just one moment or one play, it was a real shift. They started to punch back, and all of a sudden, the league had to sit up and take notice. And this was their path to earning some respect. First, that massive upset over Indiana, a team with one of the best offenses in the league. That was the first real sign of life. Then, a huge statement win against a tough-as-nails Cincinnati team, and it was all sealed by moments like Kerryon Thompson's game-winning interception. See, they weren't just playing anymore, they were making clutch plays to win games. And the engine behind this whole turnaround was Devin Campbell. This description, electric but raw, man, it just hits the nail on the head. The mistakes were still there, for sure, but the electric part started to show up more and more. He was making these incredible throws, scrambling for game-changing first downs. He was showing that he could single-handedly keep his team in any shootout. But look, a quarterback, especially a young gunslinger like Campbell, can't win these shootouts all by himself. To hang in a league this loaded, he needed a true number one guy, an explosive, reliable target he could count on when things broke down. And you know what? He found one. And boy, did he ever. This chart just shows you how crucial Derek Fitzgerald became. I mean, look at this list. These are the best of the best in the whole conference, and Fitzgerald is right there with them. But here's the number you gotta see: 628 yards after the catch. That means more than half his yardage came after he already had the ball in his hands. He wasn't just a safety net, he was a one-man wrecking crew, turning 5-yard passes into 50-yard gains. So, after this absolute roller coaster of a season, filled with incredible highs and devastating lows, the whole narrative around St. Marion has completely flipped. They've survived, and now they're heading into their next chapter. This slide captures that shift perfectly, right? Year one was all about survival, just trying to keep their head above water, proving they even belonged. But now, in year two, it's all about expectation. That we're just happy to be here mindset is gone. It's been replaced with, we expect to win. And that, my friends, brings a whole new level of pressure. So, what's the roadmap to actually making that sophomore leap? Okay, first things first, Devin Campbell has to cut those interceptions, ideally in half. The offense has got to find a consistent running back to take some of that pressure off him. And the secondary, which got absolutely torched last year, has to find a way to stop giving up so many explosive plays. Their identity is clear. Be an elite offense and have a defense that's just good enough to get a few key stops when it matters most. And when you look at the projections, you can see exactly what's at stake. If those same old problems stick around, they're probably a 6-win team, which would feel like a letdown. But if they make those key improvements we just talked about, an 8-4 record is the sweet spot. That feels totally achievable. And if everything, and I mean everything, clicks, a 9-win season isn't crazy to think about. And that brings us to the ultimate question for St. Marion, doesn't it? They've proved they can compete. They've shown us these incredible flashes of brilliance. But can they turn those flashes into consistent, meaningful wins? That is the challenge that's going to define their entire season.